The Canadian Football League playoffs have us now down to the final four in the CFL as the Riders and Argos both move on. Let's break it down. Let's start with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I thought that they had a really fantastic performance against the BC Lions on Saturday night. I thought Trevor Harris was brilliant. I thought his accuracy was spot on and just extraordinary all game. There were a number of times where the touch to just get it over the linebackers and just in front of the safeties to help the chains get moving. Like, it was just every pass he had was basically exactly where it needed to be, and it was so damn impressive that he was able to do that. And just it was quite the thing to watch, to see him that dialed in and that impressive. I don't even think the stats really do it justice for how well he played in this football game. And all the receivers stepped up too. Like, Emlis had some big plays, Johnson had a couple of really big plays, and Schaefer Baker had some really big plays to fight through some tackles and create a few extra yards to make life easier on them. And then in the run game, I thought Ouellette was really strong in how he was finishing his runs and gives them just such a unique force when it comes to that power running game. And then Armstead, the speed that he is able to bring. I thought it was really creative. From a team that isn't honestly that creative offensively, I thought it was really good to see them use both Ouellette and Armstead. And honestly, I thought they were just scratching the surface with that. I thought there was a few more times you could have used that throughout this football game, just kind of keep them off balance. And not that I think Saskatchewan is lacking in the talent department when it comes to the receivers, but you have that much talent on your team. Take advantage of it. And so I would like to see them use that a little bit more in the coming week here against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But then all of it was set up by an offensive line that was tremendous as well. They gave Harris all the time that he needed. I thought they created some good openings and some good push for Ouellette and Armstead as well to get things going in the run game. And so just, again, like, basically no notes for this team offensively. I thought they played a very good football game on the offensive side of things. And then defensively, that D-line again shut things down in the run game. When we talked about it coming in, that BC is going to have to figure out a way to not become predictable and one dimension, and that's what they were. They shut the run game down, and they were able to put pressure on Vernon Adams. And then the secondary, there were a few holes at some times. This team still plays just a touch softer than I would like in coverage, but after the Katoy big play for the touchdown, the tackling afterward was really good, and they were making some very good breaks on some balls that, like Adams, that they got him a couple times. It could have been a really big day for this team defensively, turnover wise. They just had a couple that they just missed by that much. So again, overall, a very, very strong showing from the Riders. About as complete a performance as they put on all season long. Even from a coaching standpoint, like there was a couple of times where, okay, settling for field goals and kicking it all away. Here we go. Other than that, I thought Mace had a really good day, and I thought it was uncharacteristic, but also very smart for Corey Mace to go for 2 in that spot late in the game. Going up by 7, going up by 8, it doesn't change anything. If you can go for 2 there, make it 9, and we saw how that changed it. It just put so much pressure on BC, and it kind of put it out of reach to be able to execute in that way. And especially when you have Harris who is rolling, you have like it's the CFL, so you got 20 yards to work with. I just feel like that is a spot that they could have been a bit more aggressive on this year, and it was the perfect spot to go for it there. On the BC Lions side, it is just as simple as they just didn't make enough plays. We said one of the secondary receivers was going to have to step up, and none of them did. The Riders, I don't know if it was a game plan wise or if it was BC trying to get someone else going or what it was, but McInnes didn't really get going until late in the first half, but no one else really stepped up. Again, like Katoy has the big play early, but aside from that, like Hollins doesn't have nearly enough in this game, and they just didn't have enough players out there getting the job done. And then Saskatchewan shutting down the run made this a one-dimensional football team, and it put pressure on Vernon Adams, and he is a fantastic quarterback and a very talented human being. But when it starts to get scrambling and it starts to get a little bit wiry, he can make a few mistakes. And Saskatchewan put him in those positions, and they fully took advantage of that. And I thought BC did it a little bit to themselves, quite frankly. I thought that stand back, he wasn't busting him or anything like that. I think he ends up with 3.5 yards per carry. But there was a couple of runs that, again, like I'm not, you can see the mask in the background. I'm not hiding a bias here. I'm coming from this from a Rider fan standpoint. I was calling my parents on every touchdown and every scoring play. Stanback had a couple plays, and I was like, oh, it feels like he's getting going a little bit. And then they would just go away from him for a while. And then he would have a big he would have a big catch. Whether it was, I think he made a 2nd and 8 conversion on a dump off over the middle, and he made a good play along the near sideline to the TV broadcast that allowed him to get some pretty good yards there. I was like, this is your second most talented pass catcher right now. Why aren't you using him in that way? And I think BC kind of did it to themselves a little bit. And then defensively, they couldn't get the stop when they needed to. They didn't get nearly enough pressure on Trevor Harris. And then Harris, like I said, was great. And so, like, if you get too deep with the linebacker depth, then he's just going to pick you apart underneath all day, and they're going to start crushing you in that way. And so just at some points, there was no way for the secondary to really handle what he was doing, but I think it was because of the work of the offensive line for Saskatchewan. Now they take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It should be interesting. We'll have the preview coming up here later on in the week. Also going to look at the X factors going into that one the same way we did for this one.